So in the previous video, I explained how I float my seeds, and that gives me a general indication of the viability of that seed. So the ones that sink, generally pretty good. The ones that float, generally not so good. Also, it's a good idea to actually soak these seeds overnight in water. Okay, and that'll just allow that little seed to absorb some of that moisture, and it'll get the germination process kick-started. And secondly, if you choose to, it's a good idea to scarify the seed coat, especially on the edges of the seed, because it is quite a hard seed. This will also allow the penetration of moisture to go into that seed a lot easier. And thirdly, I mass planted these seeds into a little container that would create a humid environment for these little seeds, which is pretty important. Now, if you don't have a container like this, just simply use a pot and cover it up with a plastic bag or a bit of cling film or something like that, just to keep that humidity in there. It's very, very important. And just keep them moist. Don't overwater them, just keep them moist, and stick them in a sheltered position out of direct sunlight. You don't want to cook them. So this is the little container that I put the seeds into almost 3 months ago. So it's been a while. So these things didn't start germinating until about 4 weeks ago, and they're very sporadic in their germination. So they're not all coming up at the same time. So what I've been doing is slowly sifting through this soil and just finding the little seeds that are throwing a little taproot. And we got one here. Now just be very gentle, and then we have a little cherimoya seed with a little taproot. So it's at this stage now, I'll put this into a new pot where it'll happily grow for the first year. So the pots I like to use are quite deep, because these little cherimoyas have quite a long taproot. So you want to allow this little seedling to just grow unhindered. Okay, so its little taproot can just grow and stretch out like that. You don't want to confine it into a small pot where it'll simply hit the bottom of the pot and the little taproot will start coiling around. That's not a good thing. So select a pot that's fairly deep and fill it with good potting mix, nice free draining light stuff that'll hold moisture. Okay, you don't want them to be boggy, you don't want them to be sitting in water, they'll simply rot. Okay, so all I do is I'll fill it up and I'll stick my finger in there and make a little hole, just like that. And I'll take my new little champion cherimoya seedling, like so, and I'll stick him taproot down just below the surface, and then with my other hand I'll simply just very gently just push a little bit of dirt around there. Okay, you don't want him to be too deep because he's already started the germination process. So just stick him in there like that, and that's good. And then just gently water it, like so, just so that little cavity where you made the hole will completely fill up with soil. And all I do now is I stick him in with the rest of them. And in a few days, this little seed should start breaking the surface. So in about a week's time, the little seedling will start pushing up through the soil. They grow similar to a little bean. So they'll start throwing their little taproot down, and they'll slowly start stretching out. And then the little seedling, it's pretty much on its way. It'll start lifting that seed up as it starts getting stronger, and the little base of that seedling will start to become thicker. And then after about a week, after you've planted it into its new little pot, it'll start developing its first leaves, which are basically a water leaf, and it will start pulling itself out of that little seed. It's very cool. Don't try and help them at this stage, just let them go. Just let them do their thing, they will get out. And then just after another day or two, you can see how that little first true leaf has pushed his way up to the top, and that little seed is still being held on by the little water leaves down the bottom. Now at this stage, gravity kind of kicks in as that little seedling starts growing up. Gravity starts pulling that little seed down away from those little water leaves. So it's only just a matter of time now and that little seed will just drop away. And this little seedling here is about 2 weeks old after it first started emerging, going on to its 3rd week. So those first leaves there, they'll start basically turning yellow as that little plant starts drawing its energy out of those leaves to grow its first true leaves, which are the ones at the top. This little seedling now is on its way. So these little seedlings here are the ones that are deciding to break the surface and start growing into a little plant. Now they are all at different ages, but I guess it's something they do. They may not do it. They might all come up at once in different parts of the world, different climate conditions, different environmental conditions. But I'm finding that these are all coming up at different times. Now I've still got seeds left in that container that haven't germinated, and they may still germinate over the next couple of weeks. So I've got 7 seedlings here that have broken the surface, and I've got about another 7 in pots that haven't broken the surface. So that's about 14 seedlings, and I think I planted, it was around about 22 seeds. So the germination rate isn't too bad. So while they're this young, I won't apply any fertiliser at all until basically those little bottom water leaves start shrivelling up. They don't need any food whatsoever. They'll just quite happily grow. So it's after this stage, so after they get about, say, 4 months old, I'll just give them a very light liquid feed of fish emulsion or just something like that, something that's very, very weak or diluted. That'll be fine. As far as water's concerned, just keep them moist, don't keep them wet. Okay, they don't like being wet, they don't like having wet roots. So just make sure the potting soil that you choose is nice and free draining. And just check the moisture just by sticking your finger into the top layer of that soil, and it'll tell you if it's dry or if it's wet. Good luck if you choose to grow these things. A beautiful little plant, and the fruit that they produce is absolutely sensational. So there you go. Thanks very much for watching, and good luck with this if you give it a go. And I'll catch you next time. See you later.